It was supposed to be a night of celebration, family gathered, glasses raised, laughter echoing across the long dining table. But beneath the surface, something darker simmered. A woman sat quietly, her grace unmatched, her achievements unspoken. And beside her, a man who wore pride like armor and prejudice like perfume. When the insult started, no one said a word. When the laughter turned cruel, no one stopped it. And when he spat on her, right there at his parents' table, the room went silent. No one knew the truth. Not that the woman they just humiliated was the reason they lived in comfort. Not that the company they bragged about wasn't his, it was hers. That night, she didn't shout. She didn't cry. She just looked at him with calm eyes that said, "You have no idea who I really am." What happened after that dinner would change everything. Where are you watching from right now? Let me know in the comments below before we dive in. Before that dinner, Maya's life looked perfect from the outside. She was 34, confident, and quietly powerful, the kind of woman who built her success brick by brick, without needing the world's applause. By day, she was the unseen force behind one of the fastest-growing consulting firms in the city. Her name wasn't on the company's front door, but her ideas were behind every deal, every success story, every check that cleared. At home, though, things were different. Her husband, Andrew, loved attention more than truth. He enjoyed the role of the charming CEO, the man who built it all from nothing. Most people didn't know Maya was the majority owner. She never corrected them. Not because she was ashamed, but because peace, she'd learned, was sometimes more valuable than credit. Family dinners were always complicated. Andrew's parents came from old money and older beliefs. They smiled politely when Maya spoke, but their eyes said otherwise. They praised Andrew's hard work while ignoring the woman who had made it possible. Over time, Maya had become used to the quiet dismissals, the condescending jokes, the subtle digs at her background. But on that night, something felt different. There was a heaviness in the air, a kind of tension she couldn't quite name. She told herself it was just another dinner, another evening of small talk and shallow smiles. She didn't know that within hours, that table would become the stage for her humiliation and her quiet revenge. Because what no one realized, not even Andrew, was that Maya had stopped playing small. She had plans. And by the end of that night, every single person in that room would see who truly held the power. The night began like every other dinner at Andrew's parents' home, long table, perfect lighting, the smell of roasted meat and expensive wine. Maya arrived early, carrying a bottle of vintage red, smiling politely even as she felt the familiar sting of being an outsider in her own family. Andrew's mother greeted her with that same strained warmth, the kind that felt more like obligation than affection. "You look lovely, dear," she said, eyes flicking over Maya's skin, her curls, her quiet poise. "So professional, as always." It was meant as a compliment, but Maya heard the undertone. "Always so composed. Never quite one of us." As the night unfolded, Andrew became louder, more boastful. He loved being the center of attention, loved retelling the story of how he built that company from scratch. Every laugh, every nod of admiration from his father inflated him a little more. Maya sat silently, her smile practiced. She had heard it all before. Every time he erased her role, it cut a little deeper. Then came the wine. Andrew poured another glass, his voice slurring just slightly. "You know," he said, leaning back in his chair, "some people get lucky. They marry up, they get a free ride." His friends chuckled. Maya froze. He wasn't just talking. He was targeting. The room grew quieter, but no one intervened. His mother forced a smile, his father kept eating. Maya's throat tightened as Andrew continued, "I mean, let's be honest. Some people should be grateful they were brought into this kind of life." It was a statement wrapped in arrogance and racism, an old belief dressed up as banter. The words hung in the air, heavy and cruel. Maya wanted to walk out. But something in her told her to stay. The next moment was worse. A dropped fork, a spilled glass, a heated word, and then it happened. Andrew turned toward her, eyes sharp, and spat. A sound so small, but the silence that followed was deafening. His parents gasped. His friends looked away. Maya sat there, frozen, not in shock, but in realization. This wasn't about the wine, or the words. This was about what he saw when he looked at her, a woman he could belittle to feel powerful. But she wasn't broken. She was calculating. Every insult, every humiliation, she absorbed it, like fuel. Because in her mind, she was already planning the moment she'd reclaim her dignity, not with anger, but with truth. And that moment was coming sooner than anyone expected. The air in the dining room was thick, every second stretching longer than the last. Andrew's words still echoed, but the spit, that single act, had changed everything. His friends shifted uncomfortably, pretending to check their phones. His mother whispered something about having too much to drink. But Maya didn't move. She sat perfectly still, her back straight, her hands folded neatly in her lap. The humiliation burned, yes, but beneath it was something colder, clarity. For years, she had built him up, protected his image, allowed him to stand on her success. She had given him power. And tonight, he'd used that power to try and destroy her. Andrew smirked, thinking it was over. Thinking he had won. You see, he said, his voice laced with mockery, some people just don't know their place. Maya finally stood. Her chair scraped against the floor, a small sound, but it cut through the noise like a blade. Every head turned. Her eyes met his, calm but unflinching. Do you know what's funny, Andrew? She said softly. You've been bragging all night about your company. The table went quiet. But here's the thing, she continued, her voice steady. It's not yours. It never was. Confusion flickered across his face, followed by a nervous laugh. What are you talking about? Maya reached into her purse, pulling out a thin folder, the kind that held contracts, signatures, ownership papers. She placed it gently on the table, sliding it toward him. 90%, she said. That's how much of the company I own. My name, my capital, my work. You've been living off what I built. If you're still watching and feel what Maya's feeling right now, hit that subscribe button. These stories deserve to be heard. The color drained from his face. His parents stared at her, mouths slightly open. One of his friends coughed awkwardly, unsure where to look. Maya didn't gloat. She didn't raise her voice. She simply gathered her things, each motion deliberate. You spat on the person who built your life, she said quietly. And now, you'll watch what happens when I stop saving you. Andrew tried to speak, but the words wouldn't come. For the first time, the room didn't belong to him. Maya walked toward the door, every step echoing against the marble floor. No one dared to stop her. As she reached for her coat, she paused, turning slightly. You always told me I should know my place, she said, her tone almost gentle. I do now. And it's not here. She left him standing there, humiliated, powerless, exposed. Outside, the night air hit her like freedom. For the first time in years, she felt light. But deep down, she knew this wasn't the end. It was only the beginning of his downfall, and her rise. Because the next morning, the world would know who truly ran the company, and who destroyed his own life with one unforgivable act. The next morning, headlines started spreading through the company like wildfire. A quiet but undeniable shift had taken place. An internal announcement revealed what few people had ever known. Maya Thompson was the true owner and majority shareholder. Her name, not Andrew's, sat on every legal document that defined the business. The truth couldn't be buried anymore. Andrew showed up at the office, but the whispers followed him everywhere. The staff who once greeted him with respect now looked away. Those same people who used to laugh at his jokes suddenly saw him for what he was, a man propped up by a woman he had tried to destroy. Maya didn't attend that day. She didn't need to. Her silence spoke louder than any press release ever could. Within weeks, she filed for divorce, reclaiming not just her company but also her voice. The same grace that made people underestimate her now made them listen. But even as she rose higher, Maya couldn't forget that night. Because what happened at that table wasn't just a family argument, it was a mirror. A reflection of how easily a black woman's success can be diminished, disrespected, or erased in a world that still struggles to see her worth. She had lived through years of quiet prejudice, through smiles that didn't reach the eyes, through rooms where her brilliance was ignored until someone else repeated it louder. That dinner was only the breaking point. But it was also her rebirth. And maybe that's the lesson buried beneath the pain. Power doesn't always announce itself. Sometimes it sits quietly, waiting. Waiting for the right moment to remind the world who really built the empire. When people ask her now how she kept her composure that night, Maya smiles and says, "Because I already knew the truth." And the truth always wins, eventually. Her story became a symbol, not just for women, but for anyone who's ever been underestimated because of their color, gender, or background. A reminder that dignity can be the most powerful form of resistance. How many more Mayas are sitting silently at tables where they are unseen? How many more people are forced to swallow their worth just to keep the peace? The next time you witness injustice, will you stay silent, or will you stand with the one being silenced? Because silence may protect comfort, but truth changes everything. If Maya's story moved you, hit the like button, subscribe, and tell me in the comments, what part hit you the hardest?